Hey, my name is Jay, and I am super pleased to introduce my friend Adam to the Crowdsourcing Promising Practices community today. And Adam works as an EdTech coach in Maryville, Illinois. He tells me it's somewhere near St. Louis. And I asked him what he thinks teaching is like, and I have to check out my notes here. This is a good one. He thinks teaching is like cooking. Everyone needs to know someone who can do it well. Everyone gets better with practice. And it's more fun if you don't follow the recipes. And I can't disagree with that. So today he's going to share with us how to use PearDeck to create interactive presentations. So super appreciative that you're here with us today, Adam.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Thanks so much. And do you know what? We're just going to get right into it. So whenever you're ready, if you want to go ahead and share your screen, explain how to use this tool in your classroom.
All right, we're going to do it. I am sharing my screen now. Are we good? Can you see it?
Yes, we can.
All right, awesome. Okay, so PearDeck is a really great tool, just like Jay was mentioning, that makes regular Google slideshows interactive. And that's something that any teacher can definitely benefit from. So I'm going to show you basically how to get started, how it works, and hopefully you'll be able to take this and run with it, and that's the plan. So from our get-go, from the start here, we're going to start with a brand new slideshow. So I just went to Drive, which is always my favorite place to start. And I went to Google Slides, and again, I can just create a blank presentation because we're not going to use a template or anything like that for right now. So I've got my untitled presentation here. And it's really important that when you're using something like PearDeck, that obviously you want to make sure that your presentations look nice and following themes and not necessarily having everything with a white background and tiny little text and all. That's very important. I think what PearDeck does is give you some really cool templates that make your slideshows, that makes your interactive slides look cool and be sort of fun to watch, and the kids really do kind of dig it as they're going through it. So the first thing that you do have to do in order to use PearDeck is to add the add-on to your slides, and that again is something that you do have to have before you can even start. So we're going to go to add-ons up here, and I already have PearDeck applied, but I'm going to go show you how it works. If you go to Get Add-ons, most of the time it shows up at the top somewhere near the front because it's a pretty popular one. Oh, look at how big it is right there on the right. So if you click on PearDeck, there'll be a button down here that says Add to Slides. And so you can add that add-on. And it's really, it asks for a couple of things for permission. It does need to have access to your Google Drive and your slides, but obviously those things are it's all legit. It's a good company, and they get obviously all the permissions they need to. So just accept those permissions, and then you will have in your add-ons drop-down the PearDeck add-on. So as soon as you get that add-on ready to go, and you've given it all your permissions and it says you're ready, go ahead and open the PearDeck add-on here. So what that's going to do is open up a sidebar over on the right-hand side. And this sidebar is pretty self-explanatory. There's only a few things that you really do need to know. As you're looking over here on the right, it does say present with PearDeck, and that is one thing I'm going to get to in just a minute. But you don't present this like you would a normal slideshow. Because it's interactive, your students are going to have a device, some kind of device where they are looking at your slideshow while the slideshow is either up on the projector, or if you just have it on your own computer, they can all be following along as you go through. So I'll get to that in just a minute. What we're going to look at down here, though, is the slide library. So we're going to scroll down just a touch. You have some options. You've got some slides here for the beginning of the lesson, which again, they do give you these templates. You've got, what do you want to know about today's topic is just a pretty straightforward question, and it's a text slide. The next one is a drawing slide. You do actually have the ability to have drawings for kids to be able to record drawings. It's pretty fun. There's another text slide. Here you have a draggable slide where it gives you a little circle, and the kids can drag it from one side to the other or really to any point on the slide to agree with something, disagree with something, or to give their opinion or something like that. So those are the slide types. You've got text. You do have multiple choice. There's a number slide, and then drawing and draggable. And so one thing that is kind of important to remember is that we're looking at using the free version of PearDeck right now. And the free version lets you use any of these templates up here. Again, there's more in the during the lesson slides. People can write down elements here, things that are important in certain events. Again, you've got multiple choice, true or false. More draggable slides here. How do you understand what we just covered? And kids can drag the circle. So these are all sort of examples of the types of slides that you can put in there. And like I was just showing you here at the bottom, you have all of these options: text, choice, number, website. But these two down here have little stars because they are premium functions. You can add those only if you pay for the premium version. But here's a little tip. You can still use them even without the premium version. I'm going to show you how right now. This is kind of a fun little trick here. But let's say we're going to open our slideshow with basically, let's have the question: did you read the book last night? Which would, everybody's going to say yes, of course. So let's put this draggable slide in here. So it's going to give the students a little dot in the middle, and they're either going to be able to drag from one side or the other. So if I click on that slide, it's going to bring up another little thing here. It says it's inserting the new template slide. And then, boom, it's going to show up right here on my slideshow as soon as that finishes working. There we go. What you'll notice is that it has this little thing at the very bottom. It's this little pair guy. It says students drag the icon. And students will see a little blue dot here in the middle of the circle. And we'll see what they see in just a second. And then they drag from one side to the other. So that's kind of how that works. What's cool about this is that if you don't necessarily want these thumbs to be where they're dragging back and forth, these are just slides. So we just take all this stuff, and I'm just highlighting everything, and I just deleted it all, almost all of it. I'm going to delete that too. Now it's a totally blank slide, but the students still have a draggable dot. So now you could put a map of a country up and say, where's the capital of this country? Or you could put a skeleton up and say, where is, the radius? And they have to drag the dot to the radius. This is like, you could do anything you want with these slides once you put it in here. So while they do give you these cool templates over here, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to stick with those templates. So you do have to leave this bottom bar on here because that's where the slideshow knows that now we're doing a draggable slide. But what's above it is totally up to you. So that's kind of how that works. I'm going to add a couple more in here. So you've got a text slide. Let's add this one here and see what that one looks like. So we're going to add some text. It does take a second, so you do have to kind of be patient. But now you've seen, here's my first slide, and here's my second one. So I'm going to drag, let's do another one. Let's do a drawing slide because I like the drawing slides. Those are pretty fun too. There's a drawing slide. Let's add that one in there. So again, once this shows up, now students, when they get to this particular slide, they will have the ability to draw things. And so that's, again, kind of a fun little thing. And I've noticed I've got my little bar down here at the bottom on all three of these slides, but the first one doesn't have anything, which means you can still put whatever you want in these slides. So if I wanted to insert, an image of some dogs or something, I'm just going to put this on here so that you can just see how it works. Let's do a quick dog search because I like, oh, that guy's cute. So we're going to put him on there. So again, this is not going to be an interactive slide. This is just a slide that the students will see. When they get to the interactive ones, you'll see things change. Okay, so now again, you feel free to explore these. Obviously, you're going to want to pull in all sorts of different types of slides. A lot of these are drawings over here on the right-hand side, but the draggable ones and the text and all of them, multiple choice, are all very, very useful. So let's say you got your slideshow all together, you're ready to go, and you're ready to present. What you're going to do is click up here at the top and present with PearDeck. So if you click there, it's going to send you to the actual PearDeck presentation website. And you're going to have your students go there too. You'll notice that it's asking me to access my slideshows, which is totally fine. Again, it's all legit. But it's going to pull up this app.peardeck.com, and this is where you're going to launch your slideshow from. So you notice it didn't change anything, and I did not hit the present button up at the top. I hit in the sidebar, present with PearDeck, and this is what's going to make this interactive. So you'll notice it's going to pop up here. And this is where you're going to tell your kids to go. Joinpd.com, and they're going to type in VXQMK. And they do, this is pretty fun. Victorious X-rays, quiz, Misty kangaroos. I have no idea what that means, but that's pretty fun. So what we're going to do is I'm going to pull up an incognito window here with another person. This is a different account. And I'm going to go to that particular website. And now I've forgotten it. It is joinpd.com. Sorry, I knew it was in there, but I forgot it. Joinpd.com. So it's going to, again, have your students sign in. And why this is important, you do want your students to be in their school Gmail accounts. If they don't have Gmail accounts, there are ways of going about this. But the reason why we want kids to be able to sign into their account is because as you're going through your slideshow, it does record their responses. So if you've got kids who, are drawing pictures and they've put answers into multiple choice, you want to keep track of all that, you can, because they're signing in with their Google account. So this is one of those things that does make it pretty nice. And again, I've forgotten my code. It's VXQMK. All right, so let's remember that. VXQMK. Almost forgot it. QMK. There we go. Okay, now that I've signed in, this is initializing the PearDeck. And again, you'll notice there's my puppy dog from the very beginning of my slideshow. Now, if I go back and forth to my student, I'm sorry, this is the teacher version. Now I've got one student connected. I'm going to go ahead and start the class. So this is the teacher view. Okay, so as the teacher is going through the slideshow, you have your arrows down here at the bottom. So it's similar to a regular slideshow, except that you are obviously presenting it through PearDeck. If I go to the next slide, if I go back to my student view, this is now the slide the student sees. So you are progressing through the slideshow for the students. But again, you'll notice I've got this dot. So I did delete those the hands there, the thumbs up and the thumbs down. But you'll notice this is where my dot goes. So let's say I'm going to drag it down here to the bottom corner for whatever reason. As a teacher, I'm going back to the teacher view. I can actually show the responses. So if I click, now I've got, and if there were more students in here, there would be a whole lot more screens. So you can see the grid layout, but you can see where the students drop the little dot. So let's take a look at the next slide. This was a writing slide. This is a text slide. What did you learn from the homework? If I go back to my student view, I've got a big box over here where I can write the answers. So I learned all sorts of good stuff. And again, for the sake of time, I'm just going to keep typing randomness. Again, as a teacher, I can go back, show the responses, and see all of the student responses. So on this screen, they're going to be anonymous. When you finish the session, they will be recorded with the student's email address. So again, that's kind of how you can keep track of that. So let's go back to the presentation. Let's go to the next slide. This is the drawing slide now. So here it says draw a line to the right dot on the line. They're going to be connecting events with the dates. Again, that's a pretty cool way to make sure your kids know what they're doing. If I go back to my student view, now on this one, it has all of these different options. I've got a pencil, so I can change the color to red and draw, let's say event 1 goes with date 2. And then in yellow, event 3 goes with date 4. So again, you've got the ability to draw pictures. Just like all the other ones, going back to the teacher view, if I show the responses, there's the arrows for this particular student. And for multiple students, they would have all the drawings there. The drawings are the only things that don't necessarily get recorded because the information after a slideshow goes into a spreadsheet. You can see the drawings in PearDeck.com, which again, if we've got a couple minutes, I'm going to check that in here in just a second, make sure we have enough time. We'll take a look at that too. But basically, that's how it works. So you create your presentation. You control the pace and the direction that the slides are going. So if I'm flipping through, it's flipping through for the student as well. And it's changing the slides for them. When you're done with the session, you do have the option to either turn on student paced, which means you could give this to the students, say in Google Classroom or something like that, and the students can then go through it on their own, just like you could any regular slideshow. Or you can just end the session. When you end it, then that's done, and the responses are all recorded, and you can see it later. So we're going to go ahead and end this session. Before we do that, you do have the ability to lock their screens so that they cannot move to something else while they're going through the slideshow, and you can ask questions right in the middle of your presentation. So you do have the ability, if you're just going through, you can add a brand new question, either a long answer, short answer, numeric, true, false. So you do have the capability of making changes on the fly, which is a pretty cool thing. But let's go ahead and end this session. Excuse me. And I'm going to give it a name. We'll just call it practice. And, it's helpful to spell things right. So I'm going to save and end the session. And so I'm done. Leave that alone. It's sending me back to my slideshow. The session's over with. If I go back to my student view, it just took me back to a pair. I'm done. All right, so the students can't necessarily view this until you turn it back on. So you can give them the code again and start the session again and leave it on student paced, and then they can go through and take the questions or answer it or however on their own pace as well, which is really kind of handy tool. So I'm going to go to PearDeck.com. This is the last thing. So let's say if we're going to take a look at PearDeck and look at this session. We want to go back and see the responses from this particular session that we ran. When you get to PearDeck.com, you do have the ability you are a teacher, so you want to do a teacher login. And it is single sign-on with Google. So it does, we're not going to do my trial right now. We're just going to stay where we are with this account. As you can see, I've done this a few times. But I am going to take a look at sessions, which is up here at the very top. And if I go to sessions, now this is going to show me all of the sessions that I've done lately. So this was that untitled presentation we just gave, the one today at 7:59 p.m. And so if I go to the practice session, I can pull it up either on the projector, but what I want to do is look at the dashboard. So the projector would allow you to go through it again, but the dashboard is where it's got all of your cool information. So we're going to take a look at that, unless it's making me upgrade. It's not letting me upgrade. Okay, so here we go. I don't know if it's going to let me do it or not. Come on, initialize PearDeck. There we go. All right, so this session is over with, and it's done. But if I go through my slides, again, I can still see the responses. And if I go to the next one, there's my second response, and so on and so forth. So again, it may be the email addresses are saved in the premium version. That might be something that they either recently changed. I might have to take a look at that. But either way, it definitely is something. Let's export it to a spreadsheet and see there. So if we export to a spreadsheet, again, it may just be a premium version. Let's see if it's going to create it. Oh, it did. And there it kept my answer. Okay, so here's my student email address. That was the email address of the student who answered the questions. This particular answer is for where they drag the dots. And since you can't really put a picture of where they drag the dots on there, you have to give X and Y coordinates. So you can kind of figure out if the very top corner is 0, then it was pretty far over to the left and near the bottom. That's just kind of how that works. But anyway, they did keep the answer that I wrote in there, and there was a drawing on slide 3. So you can get access to these in a spreadsheet. So that's pretty much PearDeck in a nutshell. Again, it's that add-on that's super important. Once you put that add-on in there, then you can create all of these slides. Putting those templates in there are a good place to start, but you can change them to be whatever you want. And then when you present through PearDeck, not necessarily through the regular present button. And the premium version is really not very expensive, and it does have some other cool features, but it is definitely useful as a teacher for free. So it's definitely something to try. Is there anything that I missed, Jay? I know I went through that relatively quickly. But
you know what? I was just going to say, Adam, I've heard of PearDeck. I've never dug into it, and I'm sitting here thinking, why was I not using that when I was in the classroom last year?
I totally agree with you. Hey, it would have been fun. Now, again, just like any of these other tools that you see, using them too much, it does take away some of the fun of it. Just like if you do Kahoot like every day, Kahoot becomes so boring. And PearDeck can do the same thing. If kids are like, oh, another PearDeck. But if you're using it every so often and, like maybe once or twice in a unit, then that becomes kind of a cool thing. And that's always something to sort of remember. I always tell teachers when we're going through this stuff that don't overuse it. It's always fun to try something new. And the kids like it when you try something new, even if you fail, even if it's not perfect. It's still something new and different, and it can't hurt. That's kind of what I always tell people.
I love it, Adam. Super engaging. I definitely need to bring this forward to some teachers. So thanks so much for adding a perfect bite of PD to our community tonight. And for the viewers, thanks for learning with us. Keep those nominations coming in and help us make sharing contagious. Thanks, Adam.
Absolutely. No problem, Jay. Talk to you later.